Kathryn, you want to go ahead and kick off so we can get started, and others as they join, we'll squeeze them in and move forward. Be mindful of everybody's time.
Sounds good. Thanks for bringing us all here together this evening, Audra. I'm Kathryn Bennett. I'm the givingmatters.com manager at the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee. And I will just go ahead and start with an apology. I normally just have one noisy dog with me, but this week I have two noisy dogs. So if there's any barking, it's coming from me, and they're just very excited about Giving Matters and Give Black, Give Back and all the things we'll be talking about. But I've been with the Community Foundation for about 5.5 years now. And my main role, like I said, is working on the Giving Matters initiative. I think it's a really incredible tool for the nonprofits in our Middle Tennessee community, but also for, community members looking on how to get involved and put their dollars in the best place, or for funders looking to, be responsible in their grant making, or, whoever is looking to learn about nonprofits. It can really serve anyone. It's a free resource for everyone involved. There's no paywall whatsoever, which is rare these days to find something without a paywall. And that's, the core of our mission is transparency and getting data into the hands of those that need it. And so I know, the process of creating and maintaining a Giving Matters profile, it can be time consuming. It takes time, it takes attention to detail. You have to gather all the documents and statements from your board members and things like that. But I really have found it to be a useful tool if you're willing to put the time and effort into it. And I am right now just a one-person team with Giving Matters. If you call or email looking for help with Giving Matters, you get me. And I'm always happy to field questions and help walk folks through the process, and just to be a resource. So I want to start with that and just say, if you have questions as we're going, this evening, or if you're watching the recording, or down the line when you're working on your profile, please do not hesitate to reach out, because we want to help you tell your organization's story with data, and with and to highlight all of the great work that you're doing. Sorry, that was probably too long of an introduction. But it's nice to be here tonight and get to be able to have these conversations. Audra, you're muted.
I'm muted. I forgot to turn my phone off and it started ringing just as you were introducing me. Well, I think everybody knows me. Julius, you'll get to know, and I think Dr. Ray and Dale for passing on to you and your being here with us today, and those who will jump on later. I'm at the Community Foundation, and I work in the area of donor relations under specifically the umbrella of Give Black, Give Back. And these are nonprofits and or organizations within the community and philanthropists in the community that we're trying to bring together to help address some of the needs, some of the shortfalls that are in the community. And it's a relationship, partnership kind of thing that we're trying to do. And I'm super excited that I'm here, and one of our co-chairs, who happens to be an entrepreneur and a business owner herself, has an agency that also reaches out to businesses and in order to help them in a myriad of ways. And that's Kia Jarmon. We'll hear from her after Michael, our other co-worker and colleague that helps Kathryn in Giving Matters, introduces himself and tells what and some of the process of us going through with the Giving Matters profile, and then also Mr. Clifton Harris of the Urban League. Okay, Michael.
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with everybody this evening. My name is Michael McDaniel, and I've been with the Community Foundation for 21 years. I'm a senior donor advised staff member. I pretty much work in the nonprofit side of the Community Foundation, as the Community Foundation has many facets to how the foundation works and works within our community. I work with Miss Laundria Lewis, who is our grants manager. She's the first employee the foundation ever hired. And then I came around about 9 years later. So I've been with that foundation that long. So I worked with Kathryn and Laundria during our discretionary grant process, but I also work with nonprofits throughout the year to help them sort of look at needs within their organization, how to build relationships, not only with the community foundation, but maybe other funders. We're here to help in any way we can with our nonprofits. We believe they are the strength of our community. And the foundation is here to support as much as we can. We wish we could support every nonprofit, but it takes a lot of money. And while we have some great assets, we also still have more challenges of more nonprofits coming to us. So we serve 40 counties of Middle Tennessee out of the 95 counties that's located in Tennessee. So we have a pretty good chunk. We also services 3 counties in Kentucky. And that's been in the last 10 years that we've jumped the border to help them. So I'm here as an audience participation, and I'm here to answer any questions you might have later on. So thank you.
I'll get this in a minute. Thanks, Michael. Mr. Harris, Clifton.
All right, I'm Clifton Harris. I'm the president and CEO of the Urban League of Middle Tennessee. And thank you all for allowing us to be a part of this great initiative this afternoon. We look forward to supporting the process, for getting folks ready, for the big payback, initiative. And I'm going to speak a little later on about the importance of having your profiles built out on the Givings Matters profile and the importance of that. I know it has made all the world of difference for us, and I'd like to share a few stories about how that has aided us. And because it does further the work of our mission, which is to provide individuals access to economic self-reliance, power, parity, and civil rights as we continue to work in the space of workforce development and economic development and advocate on various civil rights issues. So thank you for allowing us to be here.
Thank you. Ms. Jarmon.
All right, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for this partnership. I think I sit possibly in the middle as co-chair of Give Black, Give Back, really working to bridge organizations like Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee and Urban League in our greater vision. So our mission really is to serve as a resource and amplifier for those Black-led funds that are at the Community Foundation. So we have a great variety of funds and endowments that are in the name of or in support of Black communities and Black people, and that is really important. We also support the efforts of nonprofits that are in our community and making sure that, in this year that we have had, I always say this is 2020 2.0, or it's starting off that way, but our goal is to really get us into 2021, right, and to move us forward. And what that looks like is really trying to make sure organizations have access to the funds that they need. So really trying to close that resource gap. And to what Clifton said, really providing that access and education in our community about what it takes to strengthen the economy, really to close that racial wealth gap. And how we do that, one tool is through philanthropy, and one tool is through education. So we put those together, and that's what we do with Give Black, Give Back. We're excited about the partnership we have with Urban League, and of course, being housed at Community Foundation. We've done a great deal. The goal, I think, for today is for people to get ready for the big payback, but also for you not to feel overwhelmed by if the big payback is a goal in which is not attainable at this moment. It's also important that we think longer term. And that's what we were just talking about in terms of getting that Giving Matters profile up. One of the pieces I want to just contribute, and then I want to pass it back to Audra and Kathryn, that Michael brought into our pre-conversation was, in the middle of a tornado, in the middle of COVID, in the middle of all the crazy that's happening, where does your paperwork live? It has a great opportunity to live right on Giving Matters. And that was something that, even though I've had a long-standing relationship with the Community Foundation and worked with many nonprofits, I had just not put into context. And that was really helpful. And I believe that could be the great differentiator in what Giving Matters can do. And so we want to get you prepared, but we also want to think longer term and economic stability for your organization. So I'll pass it back to Audra, and I'll speak a little bit later, Audra and Kathryn, and I'll come back and give a little more information.
Okay, at this point, Kathryn, are you ready to just walk through? I think she has some visuals that she's going to show at this time.
I am. I am going to share my screen here. Let's see. Is everyone seeing givingmatters.com?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. I always get nervous every time I go to share my screen that it's not going to work. So givingmatters.com, that's the name of the initiative because that's the name of the website. So anytime that you want to go and whether you're updating your profile or you're searching for information about nonprofits here in Middle Tennessee, you'll go to givingmatters.com. I think the website has a really interesting history in our community. So I would like to share that just for a minute. And Michael, correct me if I get anything wrong because I wasn't here for the early years. But it started in the early 2000s because funders here in Middle Tennessee, not just at the Community Foundation, but funders across our community, they wanted a place, one, where they could go and see all of the information that they needed about organizations that were applying for grants for their grant dollars. We needed a place that housed all of that information. But also there was interest in knowing what are the issues that are affecting Middle Tennessee and who is serving those issues. And so Giving Matters, it achieves both of those things. It started as a binder that you could request a copy of, so you could flip through it and learn that information. And then it became a website in 2008. And now we have almost 2,000 public profiles, and those are all organizations that are either located in Middle Tennessee or serving Middle Tennessee. And so you can, if you go to this View All Nonprofits page, you're greeted with, all of these profiles for all of these organizations that serve our community, and you can search for them in a variety of ways, whether it's by keyword, by, if you want to search for a town or a county, by issue area. There's all these different ways that you can find organizations that meet that need. And so the other kind of the flip side of that is, as you're creating your profile, I think it's helpful to kind of look through that lens of someone who might be searching for an organization that does what you do. What are they going to be typing in? What are they going to be looking for? What's going to make you be the first result that pops up when they're sorting through 1,941 nonprofit profiles? And I'll show you when we kind of dive into the back end of the site how you can do that. But it's important, I think, to know who's looking at these profiles. You're not just setting them up and creating them because we told you it was something that you needed to do, but every single person who visits Giving Matters is looking for a nonprofit to support in some way. And so they, give them the information that they're looking for and tell your story using this, really great data and this really, these great program descriptions and all these things that you have. This is your opportunity to show them off. And I also want to point out, just while we're here on the front end of the website, a few resources and just different things that exist within Giving Matters, because I know, especially if you're the person responsible for updating your Giving Matters profile, it's easy to just log on, make your updates and move on with your day. But there are some really neat tools that are here that are available to you. The first that I want to point out is we have this About Local Issues section. And this is a place where we highlight, like I said, this was one of kind of the founding principles of givingmatters.com. We have issues that impact our community. So you can click on the issue and read like a brief blog post kind of about what that issue is, how it affects our community. And then you can find nonprofits that are serving that issue. So that's a great research tool. And if if you're working on your profile and you want to make sure that, you're listed under the right issue and you don't see yourself, just let me know. Like I said, there are 1,941 of you and one of me. So I make mistakes and I miss things. But I think this is a great tool and one to make sure that your organization is utilizing. We also have a nonprofit news section. We send a monthly newsletter that contains information about upcoming opportunities, deadlines that you need to be aware of, things that we hear about that we think you need to know about. So we include that in our monthly newsletter. And if you miss it or you can't find it in your inbox, you're looking for it and you've got thousands and thousands of emails, you can come back and look. We do archive them here. So you can come and find those to see what's going on and what your organization could be doing. We also are on Facebook and on LinkedIn. So if you like social media, check us out there. And we have a Twitter feed as well. Sorry, I forgot about that one. So information here under nonprofit news. Every year we put out a capital campaign report. So if your organization happens to be raising some funds that are outside of your normal fundraising for your programs and your administrative expenses, like your fundraising for a building or equipment, and you are looking for ways to get that messaging out there to people who have money, then inclusion in the capital campaign report is a great way to do that. It exists digitally, and we do mail copies to about 100 funders across the country who are interested in Middle Tennessee projects. I send out a survey annually to collect responses there, but there's also a section in your profile that if you just keep that up to date, then you are guaranteed inclusion in the report. And the last thing that I want to point out, I guess two quick things, but they're connected. We do have, I love training videos. Like any opportunity I get to do something like this that'll be recorded and live on as a resource, I'm all about. So we do have a training video library that breaks down really like frequently asked questions that our team gets. So they're quick videos. I'm a visual learner, and so I like, being able to watch somebody walk me through a process and see exactly what I'm supposed to be looking for and what I'm supposed to be doing. So we have one that is a deep dive of the financials page. That's always the trickiest part of updating your Giving Matters profile, because you're uploading documents and you have to make sure that they're the right format, and you might, not to be totally sure where they're supposed to all go. So we have a deep dive into that section of the profile. We have one that kind of breaks down the difference of your annual update, which is the minimum requirement of maintaining a Giving Matters profile. Every year we ask that you update it so that we can verify that you're, filing all the paperwork that you're supposed to be filing, and that we are comfortable having that donate now button on your Giving Matters profile. And then versus an up-to-date profile, which is if you're, trying to participate in the big payback, if you're applying for a grant, you want to make sure that everything on your profile is current. It might not be time for your annual update just yet, but maybe your budget has changed. You've started a new fiscal year since the last time you updated, and you want to put your best foot forward if a funder is going to be looking at your profile. You don't want them to see, your 2019 budget or now your 2020 budget, because we're in a new year. So we break down the difference there. We offer peer-to-peer fundraising campaigns on Giving Matters, which you might have seen before on Facebook. Facebook has really popularized that idea of peer-to-peer fundraising, where you start a fundraiser and set a goal for, raising a certain amount of dollars for a cause that you are passionate about. And then maybe it's your birthday, or maybe it's an anniversary or something, and you're asking your Facebook friends to donate to that cause. You can do that on Giving Matters as well. It's a great way to engage your board members or your volunteers or people who are just great ambassadors for your organization. It's a way that they can support you without having to make another donation. I know that can be tricky to just ask and ask and ask all throughout the year, give us money, but this is a way that maybe they could speak on behalf of your organization and share their passion for it and help connect you with some new supporters. And finally, we have a video on how to use your profile as a storytelling and marketing tool. And that's pretty similar to what we're going over today. But if you want a little more information on that subject, I would recommend checking out this video here. We also have under the updating your profile section under FAQs, there's a 101 video. And every time I show this off, I make a mental note to myself to move it to the training library. So we'll see, maybe by the time, if you're watching the recording, I might have done that. But there is a 101 video that kind of breaks down pretty much what we'll go over on this training as well. So unless we'll save questions for the end, I'm guessing, right, Audra?
However you want to do it. If you want to ask them now as we go along so they don't have to wait, then I'm fine with that.
Well, if anybody has like a burning question right now, just before we jump into the like administrative side of the site, I'd be happy to answer that. But all right,
Okay.
I'm going to take that as it's time to log in and look at the site. Oh, and I'm going to keep saying this. There's one more thing. But before we do log in, I want to show if your organization doesn't have a Giving Matters profile, the way to get started is we have a page that kind of breaks it down. But basically, we're looking for this list of required documents here. And you'll send them to me and I'll kind of kickstart that profile initiation process for you. I'll get the profile built, get your financial documents loaded in, and then turn it over to you for you to fill out the rest. Just to kind of briefly go over what these documents are, your IRS 501c3 letter of determination is just confirming that you are in fact a 501c3 public charity. The IRS has deemed you that status. That gives you the green light to be eligible for a profile on our site. Annually, you're supposed to file a charitable solicitations permit with the Secretary of State's office in Tennessee. That's something we require. They have an interesting choice of language. If you're below a certain budget size, then you are what they call exempt, but it just means you get an exemption letter. You still have to file for it, like you're not exempt from doing anything. I think it can be kind of a confusing word choice there. But if you have any questions about what that letter is, how you get one, which category you fall into, I'm happy to kind of work with you on that as much as I can, and make sure that you have what you need there. That is one document that does tend to trip people up the most, probably of all the documents on this list. Your bylaws are the kind of, you should have bylaws when you first create your nonprofit and you're filing for that 501c3 status. That's going to be kind of your governing document. So that's an important conversation to have with your founders and your board members there to make sure you have those practices in place. We don't publish these on your profile, but we do house them for you. So if you, as Kia mentioned, Giving Matters is a great way to house your documents for your organization. So years down the line, when new leadership is in place, if they're looking for those, our team will have a copy. We are looking for a budget for your current fiscal year, and it needs to include projected revenue and expenses. I know, especially in a year like this, it can be really hard to project what kind of money you're going to bring in and what you're going to be using it for. But we do ask that you try. It doesn't have to be anything that's super complicated. It can be made in Microsoft, Excel or Microsoft Word. I have a template I can send you if you need it. And you can update it as the year goes on if you find that your numbers are changing. But we do ask for a current organizational budget that has the best projections you could possibly give. Your 990s, depending on what your organization is required to file based on your size, that's what we are looking for. If you're a new organization and you don't have any 990s yet, that's fine. You can still move on with the profile initiation process. But if you've been around for a really long time and say you've got 10 years worth of 990s, I don't need all of those. Just send the most recent 3. And then there are two forms: a profile acknowledgement form, which is just signing that you understand that your information is going to be housed on this website and publicly viewable. So we ask that you sign off on that. And then an information form that's like your name and address and phone number and kind of basic contact info. So I know it's a kind of a long list. It's a lot of like legal documents, financial documents. It can be a little daunting at first, but I'm here to help guide you through the process. You can send those documents in pieces. If you're not sure if you have something or what it's supposed to look like, chances are I have an example or a template that I can send you. So don't be afraid to reach out. I can be reached at thisgivingmatters@cfmt.org email address that's listed on this page. And the best part about this process is you only have to do it once. Even if you create a profile and then it's not active for years and years, and you decide you want to come back, you don't have to start over. We never erase organizations from our database. We might hide your profile from like the public side if it's been, if it's left incomplete for a really long time or something, but it's always going to exist in the database. So once you do this one time, from there, you just have to keep the profile up to date. And now the long-awaited moment of logging in and looking at the administrative side of the profile. When you log in, you'll select the nonprofit option anytime that you want to update your profile. Let me see. I went ahead and automatically logged me in. But this is what the page will look like. Right now we are in an open registration period for the Big Payback 2021. So you will see some branding and some messaging about the Big Payback this time of year. If your organization would like to participate in the Big Payback, the deadline to register is March 31st. So that's coming up in about a month from the time that we're recording this training. So you'll log in. I'm going to choose my nonprofit account. And when you first log in, you're greeted by a dashboard, and this dashboard will give you some helpful information. It'll let you know the status of your profile. So this particular profile that I'm looking at, it's time for me to complete my annual update. That means in order to keep that stamp of approval, which looks like an example. This reviewed by the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee icon, that's what we want. If we let the profile, if we miss our annual update by 3 months and we let the profile fall like way expired, then it will, this icon will come down and it'll get one that says declined to update. All you have to do to remove the declined to update icon is update. There's no fee involved. There's no slap on the wrist. There's no email that goes out to funders saying this organization is terrible. Don't ever give them money. It just means that we just need you to provide us with some current documentation. And the donate now button is available for any nonprofit that has that reviewed icon. So this means if I see this on my profile, it's time for me to submit some updates. And I can click on this handy update my profile button in order to do that. I can also click on this My CFMT profile. It takes me to the same place. So when you first log in, you'll see there's this menu bar on the left-hand side of your screen. That's how you're going to navigate these different tabs here that are on your profile. So if you want to update, one of these statements that's listed under mission and impact, you'll go to this tab to make those changes, and you'll click the green edit button to do so. Fields, you'll notice, especially if it's your first time updating the profile, it's new. There are a lot of fields here. We collect a lot of information. Like I said, it's a storytelling tool. It's a fundraising tool. The goal is transparency. So there's a lot of information that's collected. You don't necessarily have to answer every field. If something doesn't apply to you, that's okay. You'll want to look for these that have this red asterisk next to them. That means they are required. So you'll need to put something in the field. And if you ever have questions about what it's looking for or what you should do in a circumstance, if you don't think that maybe the phrasing is a great fit for what your organization is doing, just let me know. We can talk about it. We'll figure out together what to put there. A lot of them also have these helpful little question mark icons that you can hover over that would maybe answer your question of what it's looking for. Something I want to point out on this page are, at the beginning of this part of the training, I talked about the keywords and thinking about what's a person going to be searching for if they're trying to find your organization. You can control that by using this keyword section. And to find that, I went to statements and search, and I clicked the edit button, and I scrolled all the way down to the bottom of the page. You can technically enter as many keywords here as you like. It's not going to cut you off, at least not that I've ever encountered. I'm sure maybe there is a limit somewhere. We encourage 5 to 10 keywords. And so, if you're an animal shelter, then, you're going to put dogs, cats, animals, pets. You're going to think of words that describe your organization, what you do. So that way, if I'm looking for an organization that serves that mission, I'm going to be able to find you. You can also make sure that the geographic area that you serve, that's listed correctly. We have these NTEE codes that's categorizing your organization by mission field. There's lots of different ways here just to make sure that your organization is coming up in the proper searches. My team does fill this section out, not the statements about like your impact and your needs and things like that, but the ones that have to do with search. We fill those out based on the information you send us in the initiation process, but I don't know your organization like you know your organization. So it's important to make sure that what I've put is correct. Fill in any blanks that I, may not have picked up on. Nothing, that I put there is set in stone. It's your profile. You have the power to update it. When you're finished on a page, you'll click the save button. And most times those changes will publish automatically. If you are a longtime user of Giving Matters, you might remember a time when any change that you made to your profile came to my team for approval. So you might have to wait a day or two before those changes were live. We eliminated that in 2019. And so if you're updating like a program description or a keyword or an address, anything like that, it'll automatically publish when you save the changes. If it's a field that's related to your annual update, like if you're uploading a new budget or a 990, then that will come to me for approval first, just to make sure that the correct document is there. We want to make sure that we're helping you put your best foot forward. And I know, as just someone who uses the internet a lot, it's really easy to sometimes click on the wrong document when you're uploading something. Or to accidentally upload something twice, or whatever. We're all humans, so that just gives you a second set of eyes there to make sure that it's correct, and just for our team to be able to verify that you've met all of those annual update requirements. So just to kind of go down the list here, programs is where you'll do a deep dive into the programs that are offered by your organization. You can list up to 5 programs on the public facing side of the site. Now, I know a lot of your organizations might have more than 5 programs. You do a lot to serve the community, and you want to highlight all of that. You can house more than 5 programs here in your admin side of the site, and then you can choose which 5 are publicly viewable. So that's something to keep in mind, especially if you're applying for a grant. Make sure that the program that you are looking for funds to support is one of your active programs that's listed on your profile, because Michael is going to come looking for it when he's reviewing your grant application. So we want to make sure that it's listed there. And to add a new program, you click on the Add New Program button. And this is another example of, there's a lot of information that you can put here. You don't necessarily have to answer every question that's on this page, only the ones with the red asterisk. But it's helpful to be as robust as possible. And if you want to just get a program listed and then come back later and really beef it up, then you're welcome to do that as well. Governance is where we list your board information. And you'll see here, this page is divided into two different like sub pages. So you'll just want to be on the lookout for that as you're updating your profile, that some have two sub pages. So this one is where, this first page is where you'll enter the name of your board chair and co-chair if you have one. We ask some questions around demographics. I would definitely be sure to keep that information up to date, because we do have a lot of funders in the community that are becoming, they're getting better about taking that information into consideration when they're reviewing grant applications. They're looking for diversity, and they want to know that data. I have some that ask me for it specifically. So it's important to keep that demographic information up to date as you're updating your profile. And then governance details, that second page is where you'll enter your list of board members by clicking add board member. It's a similar setup for management. The first page, you'll enter the name of your executive director. There are some questions about the structure of your organization. We did recently add 2 new fields to this section. One is for you to be able to indicate if you are a Black-led or Black benefiting organization. So you'll want to be sure to check those boxes that are appropriate. And then we also asked one that, helpful if I clicked this button. You can find the Black-led question here closer to the top. And we asked some questions around certain like documentations, plans, or procedures that your organization might have in place. And in light of all of the disasters that our country and our community have faced in the last year, we've added a question asking, does your organization have a disaster preparedness plan? And I want to highlight here, if the answer to these questions is no, or if it's under development, that's fine. I would encourage you to make sure that one day you get to the point where you like, yes, do have that document, but we're not asking you to like cast judgment in any way, or to, I don't know, give you a slap on the wrist or anything. This is a tool for you to learn too, and a tool to be updating as you grow. I know, especially if you're a new organization, you're not going to have everything in place right when you launch, ready to go. It takes time to build all of these policies and procedures. So when you do have them, make sure that you select yes, that they are in place. And if you don't have them, put no or put under development for right now, but make a note to, that's something maybe to work with your board or work with your leadership on as the years go by. So that way you can hopefully get to a yes. And I know I'm running out of time here, but I do want to just touch on the financials. This is another one that has those 2 pages. The section where you upload your financial documents is this financials details page. And we do have that training video that is a deep dive on this page. So if you are new to updating profiles, or if you need a refresher, because a lot of times, you're only doing this once a year, so it can be, you might forget exactly where you're supposed to upload things, I would reference that video. But we're asking for your budget information. You'll upload your budget and you'll enter here the dates for your current fiscal year and your total income and expense projections. This section here, the current fiscal year, should match what you've uploaded as your current budget. And you'll notice we have all of your former budgets here too. So that way you've got that historical record if you need to access those files. We house your IRS letter of determination. This is something you really only need to supply once unless something changes with your legal status with the IRS. Like if you change your name, then you would supply us with a new IRS letter of determination, but otherwise that's good to go. Your Form 990s, this particular test profile that I'm looking at doesn't file a 990, but every year you would add a Form 990 here. And it would be similar to the budgets where you have all of the old documents there. So that way, if you need to reference any, documents from years past, you can do so. If your organization is really large, if you have a budget of over $500,000 and you are required to prepare an audit, we would ask you to do that, to upload that here as well. And then finally, that state charitable solicitations permit that I mentioned before, that's always the document that trips people up. That one is the last one you upload. That goes to here to this page as well. And if you have questions at all, like really, please do not hesitate to reach out to me if you need help getting your document formatted correctly. The site only accepts PDFs. So if you have, say, your budget or your 990 that's saved in a different format, it will just need to make sure that it's saved the right way before we upload it. And I can help with that. There's a great free website that I use called PDF to Go. It makes it so easy to edit PDFs and make sure everything's the way that it needs to be. So don't hesitate to reach out if you need help with that. There are also some like file size restrictions. And so if you might try to upload your 990, sometimes those end up being really, really massive documents. And so you might get an error message there if you're trying to upload a really massive file. So in that case too, if you need help, I'm here to assist with that. The last thing, I know I'm out of time, but I just will very, very quickly point out that you have the ability to upload multimedia to your profile. Having a logo is really helpful in terms of standing out on this nonprofit search page. Remember, there's we're getting close to 2,000 profiles. And so, and we're all visual creatures. If we think of an organization, chances are their logo or something about their branding comes to mind. And so you'll want to be sure to have the latest version of your logo there. If you don't have a logo, maybe a photo or some kind of image that represents your organization and the work that you do would be something that you could upload there. So that way you do have something. Otherwise, it's just going to be like a blank white box with your name, and that's not going to really help you stand out. And then you have the ability to upload as many multimedia elements as you'd like. You can have photos or you can link to YouTube videos. I would encourage you not to go overboard with multimedia, just because even the person who's is the most excited about your organization in the world is not going to spend all day watching your videos and looking through your photos. So think about the story that you're trying to tell. Think about what's really important, and add those photos and videos to your profile. And that is all I have. I'm going to stop screen sharing and turn things over to Kia. But please, please, please reach out if you have questions. I hope that was helpful to kind of walk through the profile. And if anyone ever needs a one-on-one or anything, I'm more than happy to schedule that.
Awesome, Kathryn. Thank you so much. In just a second, I'll share my screen. So if I need hosting, if you don't mind handing that over to me, I'd love that. What I want to say is one of the values of creating this profile is other foundations in our city and maybe even abroad are looking at these for understanding of your organization. So it's really good to have everything there. And just imagine if you were putting in a proposal or a grant application and you were able to say, here's the grant ask, and then for the validation documents, here's where you can go, right? It's already here for you. So I really want to take that point home that Kathryn was talking about. I want to talk just a minute about how to leverage your profile. What I will say is that we're zooming through a good variety of information. Kathryn is correct. She does an exceptional job of making sure there are tons of training videos. But if there is, a need for something, reach out to her or myself or even Audra. Sometimes you need to reach out to someone just to ask that one question. There are no bad questions. There are no Sometimes we get in this thing where we're leaders, we think we're supposed to know everything. There are no like bad or stupid or dumb questions. I want to just put that out there because sometimes that's just the thing that happens inside of our brain that says, oh, this is just not a good question for me as a leader. No, this is the perfect question. As a matter of fact, I was taking a note that said, if you get to a point where you don't have your disaster preparedness documents, if you don't have some of those documents, reach out to us and let us figure out if there are some foundations or some teams that would be interested in helping you to pay for those. So you never know until you ask. And that's the big thing that I've learned working with Community Foundation is that you have to ask. And very often we don't do that. So, but maybe before or after you get to the profile, whichever one, I'm gonna take you through a couple of steps and then I'm gonna just share a quick profile that I found with an organization that has done a good partnership that I wanna just share with you. First and foremost, I tell everyone, if you're gonna do a fundraising campaign of any type, so you're gonna use this to go get funds, think about your goal in two ways. One is going to be financial. So sometimes we have that big financial goal. I'm going to do X amount of grants a year, or I'm going to do X amount of individual gifts a year for the big payback or for other online giving. But there also should be something else. This is a way to leverage former donors that you haven't communicated with in a while. This is a way to leverage alumni. This is some other thing that should happen that just shouldn't be about money. And I tell you why, because I don't want you disappointed. I want you to be able to have some broader goals than just around finances. So think about that. Then who's the audience? So when you're creating messaging, because I read a lot of these profiles and I understand the messaging and the mission and the needs requests are all written for a specific audience, whoever that is for you. But I really want you to make sure you're thinking about who that audience is when you write it. Because sometimes when I read it, I just don't know what you do. And so if I, working with nonprofits all the time, don't quite know what you do, then somebody else looking at it may not understand either. This is an opportunity for you to get real specific with your need. In particular, if you're doing the big payback or another online giving, think about that one ask. What's the thing that you need to support? Or what's maybe the 2 or 3 things that are the life-saving elements? So I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I was working with an organization, and after I worked with them, I was contributing during the big payback. And they were, I think it was $35 donation to pay for a car seat. And as a mom, I know the value and need for a car seat. And so I said, well, that's life-saving. It's life-saving. It's a pretty minimal donation for me. So I don't mind doing that. But I knew exactly where it was going. So give people exactly what it is that you want them to be able to contribute to, because particularly for individual donors, they want to know exactly how they've saved a life, how they have contributed to someone's well-being. And so I want you to think about that as well. And then what platforms do you want to use? So you've got this great kind of online platform with your Giving Matters profile, but where else will you sprinkle it into the world? This doesn't mean to get on every social media platform. This might mean that after you get your profile updated, that you send an email to all the donors on your list to just say, just wanted to give you a heads up. We have now completed our profile on Giving Matters so that you can now look at us more robustly. We have some great videos on there. We have great needs requests on there, and would love for you to just consider us. Just a softball, right? It's just a reminder, but it gives you a reminder to them, but it gives you an opportunity just to give them a ping when maybe you didn't have anything to talk to them about. But doing this exercise of really identifying what is that goal, what are those needs, and the ask that you want to make is really helpful, because the next step really is, what are you going to ask for once you get on those platforms? So whether you get on Facebook, we often forget about LinkedIn as a profile or as a platform. It's a great lead generator for if you wanted to do kind of business to business or kind of get corporate gifts or potential for matching gifts. It's a great place to leverage that. You can pull that same information. So we're talking about putting things into a Word document, pulling them over to your Giving Matters. Now you've got a place, you've already got content. Don't make it up. Don't get new content. So I want to just share my screen really, really quickly to just share a profile of an organization that I had an opportunity to do, just to have a brief conversation with, but really enjoyed meeting with them and wanted to talk just through some of this, just really quickly, on how they've leveraged their profile. So I'm pulling up National Shakespeare Festival, and in particular, they partnered with Kenny Playhouse Theater, which is a African-American playwright organization, really to continue their their stance with Black Lives Matter and unifying the community. And so I want to echo what Kathryn said. Sometimes we can have a lot of media. So I would encourage you to think about the 1 or 2 videos and the 1 or 2 photos, and then let people do other exploration if they need to. So have a couple of photos and videos there. But here's the part, and I had a challenge finding this on other profiles, not because it's there, but because they went away. But here's how you can do the peer-to-peer giving, which is what Kathryn talks often about leveraging. And so they have a couple of people, and if I look at these profiles, I believe it's the same content. But what they've done is they've created ambassadors. So now how do you, if you're looking to leverage this profile, this profile that you have, how do you create messaging that then you can give to an ambassador who can then share it with their community? Now you've got more people wanting to look at your profile. Now you've got more people, because I'll tell you, this point Kathryn is driving home is that there are 1,941 organizations that are in the system, and those are just the active profiles. There might be other profiles sitting in the background that may be coming online soon. So how do you make sure that you get the word out there? It can't just be by the search or the search function or the find organizations function. This has to be that you are able to send out this particular link out. And then what I love the most is this little thermometer that will continue to go up. And I know on the big payback day, so again, if you're going to do big payback or some other type of peer-to-peer giving during a birthday or during an anniversary or milestone year, I enjoy being able to see that number go up and up. But here's really basic information, right? They just give really basic information. Here's how we want you to support us. Here's what we want you to do. Thanks so much, give, right? It's very simple. It doesn't have to be complex, but it's a great way for you to be able to leverage your that peer-to-peer giving there. So I am going to pause because that's a lot in a little bit of amount of time to share with you. But the big piece here really is that once you have that profile, or even before you have the profile, really sit down and think about, what do you want to say? How do you want to say it? Who do you want to say it to? And then let Audra or myself or Clifton or Michael or Landria or Kathryn or anybody at Community Foundation support you in getting the information up. Don't let that list of things that that Kathryn went over be a hindrance. What I would rather do is create a calendar for you to say, okay, month 1 and 2, I want you to go get your 990s done. Okay, month 3 and 4, go get. I would rather do that with you and walk you through that process. I also want to put this plug in with Give Black, Give Back. Once you get your profile ready, or when you're at the point where you think you're ready to press send and you're about to go live on it, send a note to Audra or one of us as co-chairs so that we can present this and put this before the funds that we are talked to all the time. That's the big goal that we have here for nonprofits, and particularly those who are Black-led and Black supported, supporting, is to make sure that we create this ecosystem of giving and receiving so that we can close that wealth gap. And we're going to do that as a community together. So make sure you send us a note as well so that we can put it before our funders. And so I'll give it over to Clifton to, I believe, close us out.
Thank you, Kia. You are always so inspiring. I just love being around you. I have the honor of just talking about the big picture, and I'll try and keep this succinct and brief as I possibly can. But at the end of the day, the big picture comes down to this. If you want access to funding from philanthropists, from foundations, from corporations, it is to your best interest to have a Giving Matters profile. So let's look at it this way. If you were new to town in Nashville and you needed an electrician, right? You would probably Google electrician or ask some friends to get some references for electrician. But then if you are a smart consumer, you would go to the Better Business Bureau to look that person up or that company up to see what kind of rating they got with the Better Business Bureau, right? And if they had a good seal, as Kathryn pointed out earlier, then you may be apt to go with them. If they had a poor rating, then you're probably not so apt to go with them. So the Urban League, I got to tell you, Kathryn, you have the patience of Job. And I want to thank you, for that, because I have forgotten to update our profile so many times, and I was lost on how to do it, and you just kind of walked me through it, and so now I feel like a pro at doing that. And we had a donor, I won't call the name, but they reached out to me and said, I found your profile on Giving Matters, and your mission aligns with what we want to do. And so we'd like to talk to you about making a donation of $100,000. Right? And my jaw just dropped. So that's one example. Another example, I had a donor. This was a financial institution, and financial institutions always want the demographics of who you're serving and how many is low to mod and what have you. And I had put some information in our Giving Matters profile. This was when I first came on board and took advantage, and started with the Urban League. And I really didn't have all the numbers. So I just kind of put some numbers together. And then by the time I got into it and figured out our numbers, I didn't go back and change my Giving Matter profile demographics, on that. And this donor called me out on it because the donor went and checked our Giving Matters profile and called me and said, your demographic information doesn't match up with Giving Matters like you said in the proposal that you submit to us. So I give those two examples from one extreme to the other extreme to say that your profile matters. It is a big deal. If you find it intimidating, I've always had this philosophy. You can eat a whole elephant if you eat it a little bit at a time, but you got to eat. And so with the Giving Matters profile, there's a lot of information there that may seem very daunting to you, but I can assure you, you have some folks that is willing to walk you through it. That's what we are here for, to help you, because at the end of the day, the big picture is whether or not you get funded or you don't get funded. And so there's a old saying, "Thee who has the golden egg rules." And so the folk with the money has set the rules that they would like to see your profile in Giving Matters so that they will know who they're giving their money to. And so that, in my opinion, is the big picture, and it will pay huge dividends to you simply by taking the time and going through it a little bit at a time and checking all the boxes. And if you get tired, you can hit, save, and you can come back to it later, and you can just kind of work your way through it until you got it all done. But I'm a living witness that that profile has big dividends, and it is a big deal. And it's not that complicated to work through. So if there's anything that we can do, please don't hesitate to call on us, and we will be more than happy to help you and to work you through it, because it is a big payback.
Awesome. Thank you. All I can say is thank you to everybody. This information for those who will be viewing it is going to be invaluable. And I thank all of you for your time and excuse me, the questions that may come. Individuals who will be viewing this can reach out. They've got Kathryn's number, they've got my number, and we will get those questions answered. Any more last thoughts from our experts tonight? Michael, Kathryn?
Yes, Kathryn, I have one question for you, if you don't mind. So, especially when you ask in the Given Matters profile, do you have a disaster preparedness plan? And you check no. How many organizations do we have that check no, that maybe we could come back and do a whole session around a disaster preparedness plan? Because I think it's that important that we things together and not wait for the next disaster to happen, which is inevitable that it's going to happen. And so that we can help folks, use a plan, that will help them not only serve people, but get access to resources to help them serve people.
That's a great question. We actually just went live with that question yesterday on profiles. So I don't have data yet for that, but I think you have raised a great point, and I think it's something we should keep an eye on. And we can look at all of those questions of what policies and procedures you have in place, and maybe do some special training around that. Because you're right, we should not wait for the next disaster to roll around to have something like that in place.
Exactly. Well, Kathryn, at least by the end of maybe March 31st, we can have some preliminary numbers, maybe a couple weeks after that, right? I know that's the cutoff for updating the profiles, just for
For the
payback.
purposes of the big
For the
payback,
payback,
yes.
yeah, for the
yes.
payback. So we could at least have one set of numbers shortly after that, and then going forward into the discretionary grant time and all that stuff. Maybe we'll have another, because there'll be another deadline.
Yes,
Is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure. So to your point, Clifton, that's something that we'll be on. We will be on and try to circle back together and get something in place, because to your point, it's inevitable. Something is going to happen, and people need a plan. We need a plan before and not after. So
I have one last, I always have to give a plug for Give Black, Give Back. Go to blackgivingback.com. There have been many organizations who said, how do we get on that nonprofit list to make sure? Because the other thing is that as we start to get more targeted and we have funders who are wanting to specifically give to the Black community, they are coming to our website to look at that. So we want to make sure you're in there, but you got to have that profile to get in there as well, because we don't know you unless that happens. So that's also another important part to it. So go to that website, see who we already have there, see what funds we represented there, and get in that number. That's the key here, is to get in that number. And if you're unaware of how to do that, if you scroll to the very bottom of that first page, Audra's information is there, and she'll be more than happy to speak with you, or to bring you before our advisory committee so we can talk more in depth with you and help support you in your organization.
exactly. That's great, Kia. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, all hearts and minds clear. God, I feel like I'm okay. Anyway, thank you all, everyone. It's been a gorgeous day. I'm just thankful for everything, and especially thankful for the opportunity to make a difference. We've got the power. We've got the voice, we've got the power, and we got the people. So let's go forth and make it happen. Okay. Thank you all, and we will be getting this recording out later this evening or first thing tomorrow morning.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Mikey, where's your dog? He gone already? Thanks, Kathryn.
Yeah, I have to hop off, but
Yeah.
I will send the link to the recording when
Okay.
Zoom generates it. Thank
Awesome.
you, Audra.
Thank you.
Bye, Mikey.